Yeah, there's two facts that you should be aware of, because time is of the essence. I mean, our concern with the L Street, we believe is a valuable piece of property. It could potentially have a higher and better land use, and it's something that we'd like to work with the community to identify what that is. But they have bonds that capitalize interests that are going to come due in 2011, that they're deferred payments, capitalized interest for 6 years on $28 million. These are going to be big payments.
And what percent? 6?
I don't know exactly what percentages, but
So that's due in 2011?
2011 is what we've been told it was. So that's a big payment. They have big concern.
On 28 million.
It's actually on 32 with the capitalized interest.
Oh, it'd be 32.
That's what it built up to.
And then the Third Avenue site, to help to participate in either in public improvements on Third Avenue, the timeline is getting limited. I mean, the Town Center 1 project area, the ability for the agency to invest in that, we literally have 9 more years. It expires in 2017. After that, we'll pay off any old bonds that we have. The project area expires until we can't put any more money back in the project area. So those two projects, now the Fifth Avenue site has a little longer. L Street site has a little bit longer as well to be able to invest in those areas. So that's just things to think about time.
Yeah, well, so they probably have, they're also under the tenant. And so if they were able to do something with the corporate yard, they were able to do something with Moss Street and even Third Avenue, they could generate dollars that they could potentially put against the L Street site.
Let me interrupt you real quick. I think at this juncture that we need to be, we're talking in terms of negotiating for it possibly. And I think we need to table that discussion in a public forum. We can talk generalities, but when we talk about specifics of what we might not do, we'll have to refer that to a closed session and let the subcommittee hammer out some of the details. But I don't want to get that out and compromise anybody's position.
And I was just mentioning to Chris that, you know, we are going to have to make a real. I mean, in order to make this happen, we've got to make a real estate transaction with the property owner. And a lot of the issues that we're kind of edging up on the value of the property, what it's worth, what percentage of tax increment we'd be willing to commit. You know, those kinds of deals are really part of whatever negotiation we wind up making with them. And that really, that's an appropriate discussion, but in closed session, as we negotiate what would be a real estate transaction. So we can talk in general terms.
I want to compliment Eric on getting feeling intimate. We felt so intimate. We had this conversation. We were sitting up there, but sitting down here, we kind of feel like we're problem solving, which I think is a very good part.
Well, that's
of
what
the
we're here
process.
for, but
Exactly.
we have to be kind of careful.
I understand. That's
Chris.
good observation.
Now, okay, I know it was the intent with the corporate on Third Avenue, and you know, just based
Not
on
the corporate, the
administrative
administration.
office. Excuse me, the administrative office on Third Avenue, and I know Sweetwater even spent a lot of money to an architect to put together preliminary plans for that. What did Sweetwater say about not proceeding with that? Did they say anything about they spent money for plans?
The admin building?
Yeah, the admin building. They spent money, a lot of money for plans.
The conversation has been mainly about L Street.
But I think to answer Ralph's question, the parking was an issue, is an issue for them on Third Avenue. They didn't even have to structure it or do something, and that I think was sort of took them away or want them to perhaps put the administration building on L Street because parking would be an issue for them there.
There's another aspect to this that you might be aware of if you hadn't heard it or pulled it out of the conversation. And that is that the Fifth Avenue property is something they're not willing to turn that corporate yard loose out there. They really feel strong about keeping it.
Yes.
And I'm curious about that. I'd like to know why. They claim that they've done traffic studies and that the majority of the traffic happens to be during the day when clients are in and out of the admin building, but the bus traffic is of little consequence. And I'm not sure that's We need to drill down into that one. I'm concerned about that property. It's been there a long
How
time.
many acres is that?
Pardon me?
How many acres is that?
5 or 7
5
acres.
or
something.
6 acres, yeah.
So, and probably what, 2/3 of it is for the buses?
Well, they're also running buses out of L Street now, too.
Are they?
Some, do you have any idea, Janice?
The number of buses.
Yeah, I mean, what, do they have all their garage, though, at Fifth Avenue and just running some of the buses out of L,
I think they have the
garaging
bus
some-
storage in L Street
Bus storage, but the mechanical and all that is still at
right
Fifth.
now.
Eric, you have a comment.
Well, and I just, because, not to go backwards, but I mean, that's what we wanted to get you back on, because I think what, we want to talk about the land use associated with the site, and provide clear direction, and I think that if this changes, the two main things that change, we have to go back, I would recommend that we have to go back to the agency, go back to the city council, because our agreements with them state that we'd like to see the admin center located on 3rd Avenue, we'd like to see the courtyard removed from 5th Avenue. So, and if we can kind of just talk about in generally, about how we're on board with those two concepts, then we can continue to have this conversation with the district.
So their concern about the admin building on 3rd Avenue was primarily a parking issue, that structured parking was...
I'm not hearing any, last time they presented to you, I didn't hear a concern, I heard a proposal that they wanted to move their admin center there.
An
assumption about it.
No, I don't think it was an assumption. They, I thought, took their focus off of 3rd Avenue because of parking. Have you heard those kind of
In
discussions?
the 2006 proposal, yes, they
Okay.
did move it off of 3rd Avenue, and they said it was too expensive with the structured parking and whatnot. But he did say, and I went back and listened to the November 8th meeting, and
Okay,
he did say they were able to work out the issues.
okay.
And
So
it's back on 3rd Avenue.
from that discussion of a month or so ago, did they commit, or did they basically say that they would commit to 3rd Avenue? I'm not really quite sure I got that.
I didn't hear the word commit, but that's
It's
the plan right
strong,
now.
and I think what you're doing is throwing us a bone with that,
Yes.
and that's how I felt about it. So we'll give you your 3rd Avenue, give us the rest of what we're looking for. I think that's the way I took it.
Okay.
It seems to me that the L Street site is a good transit-oriented development location. I know that the stations are where? They're-
It's on
And
H and
Palomar.
Palomar.
All right, so
They're
like,
roughly a mile away.
there's
Palomar's a
no-
little further down here, and H is right about
Yeah.
here.
So there's no pedestrian linkage in terms of getting back and forth to the station. Has there been any discussion with the trolley about possibly relocating a station?
Density's not high. At this point in time, density's not high.
What was the density that they were proposing on it? Was it 30?
1,000 units.
And the
1,000 units?
That was their idea.
And that was,
And that, there was a generic proposal, and that's when we said, boy, it's intense. The area around here is pretty much R1 and R2, with some R3, single-family duplexes and apartments and condos. And we said, boy, we really need to take this out to the community, see what they want. I mean, we're talking about park acreage, 1,000 units, is a lot of acres necessary. Clark Park, they grow like 6 or 8 acres that would be necessary. So, whether or not it would be 1,000 or 500, we have no idea until we get out and see what
But
everybody
it's
wants.
1,000 plus other uses, it's a mixed-use project,
Right.
so
What,
they, some,
15, 20,000 square feet retail.
just
plus-
wrap around retail on the ground floor is what they're looking at,
And
some.
some office, living type stuff. I think there was a second piece to the concern from MTDB or MTS about putting a station at that site though, and that's their service times right now are at capacity, and so unless they do their grade separation as they planned at E and H, right now they can't add anything because their times are gonna work. So, I mean, there may be potential for having a station there, but they're gonna have to look at how the whole line runs.
isn't a station within a mile considered, you're in the major transit corridor? I mean, if you're more than that,
I think it's a quarter mile.
quarter mile, oh.